All right. So you're thinking about packing your bags and moving abroad as a single mother. Sounds exciting. Wonderful, right? But let's be real. This isn't just another passport stamp on a lovely trip to some island or an Instagram moment. It's about redefining what home looks like, what home feels like, not only for you, but for your child or children. So there is freedom, adventure, and growth awaiting you if you pack your bags, but also tough calls, tough moments, tears, and a sense of loneliness sometimes. So you will also get side eyes from people that you thought loved you and people and their expectations telling you about how you should run your life. So let's talk about it. Let's break down the good, the bad, and oh, what the hell have I done? Because all of those moments are a part of this journey as a single mother with a child who decided to live abroad. Let's talk about it. Okay, this is going to be an interesting video. But listen, I have lived both as a single woman living abroad and now as a single mom who is living abroad. Now, what I'm not going to do is jump into how you became a single mom. What I am going to do is say this, that being a single mom traveling abroad comes with the good aspects, it also comes with the bad aspects. And then some things in between. But what I will say is that the best decision I ever made was to take my 15-month-old son to Mexico and move abroad. Not only for him, but for me, right? Me moving abroad was about my safety, my happiness, my contentness, and my being able to replenish myself and being a mother who was the custodial parent, I took my son with me. Now, this video is not about all of the legalities and whatever. What I will say is that I am not a lawyer. I am not responsible for any decisions you make. However, I will preference that if you are thinking about being a single mom and moving abroad, if there is a father's name on the birth certificate, he must consent for you to take that child out of the country. And so, with that being said, please make sure you do your due diligence and make sure all your legal checks and balances are in place. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna preference that first. Now we're gonna move on. So, you know, it's a great thing to be able to live abroad. For me, I think it's the best thing I could have ever done. But like I said, for myself or for my child. For me, it gave me the ability to live the life that I truly want to live. And I love different cultures. I love being able to travel and learn things about different people. Um, but that comes with so many different things, right? Because you end up giving up things that you're accustomed to, and then you end up traveling and, having to be able to adjust and adjust quickly, right? So when I initially moved, my son was 15 months. We moved from the DC area, Virginia, to Mexico, to Merida, Mexico, and he was 15 months. The first thing that I recall was the sense of guilt because I felt like, okay, I'm taking him from his father. Um, it's a long distance. He lived in the same house with his father. They have a bond. They still have a bond. And so there were some things that I had to adjust. And I remember the first video call that they did on, like, when we this I guess the next morning when we woke up. they called each other. And my son had a tear that ran down his and oh my God, it broke my heart because he was used to waking up with his father. He was used to being with his father. He was used to taking the garbage out with his father. He would just like walk behind him. And so it hurt, right? Because I knew that he didn't have that bond. And I remember being a child and being very close to my father. So I had all this guilt. But then I also had a person who then tried to use those things and guilt trip me about taking my child. So I will say this before I get into all the pros and get into the cons, that being a single mom and making some decisions that are difficult decisions, um, listen, this is your life, right? You have children. People are going to have opinions about how you raise your children, good or bad, right? But this is your life. And like you have to do on the airplane, you have to put your face mask on first. If you don't do that, then you die because you can't save somebody else if you can't breathe. And so, if it means that you have to make the decision to part ways, create space, do whatever so that you can be happy and whole, that's what's going to matter for your children. This is my opinion. I'm not a psychologist. I am a life coach, but happiness is the number one thing that your children have to see. They need to see you in a happy place. Then they know it's safe for them to be happy. So remember that. Now let's jump into some of the pros of living abroad. Safety, number one pro. I don't have to worry about gunshots. I don't have to worry about sending my child to a school and having active shooter drills. I don't have to worry about, um, you know, all the unsafe things that could happen to him being a little brown boy living in America. When I go back to America, I get anxious because there's so many things, hate, um, racism, just the crime, all the things that I don't want him to deal with. Does that mean that you shelter an individual so that they don't understand that the world is real and there are things that happen? No. But at the same time, I can provide him a life where he doesn't have to worry about simple things like would there be a stray bullet coming through the window? Now, we didn't necessarily live in a neighborhood where they were doing drive-bys. However, anything can happen in America because anybody can have a gun and anybody could decide that they wanted to get mad and they could shoot up the store. He could go to school and not come home because there was a child that brought a gun to school. All of those things are reality when in America. I remember the very first time we went back to America and he was playing outside and we were in DC and there was a little girl and my son was he's very intrigued with birds and she just kept saying what's wrong with him with her DC attitude, what's wrong with him? And I was like, what do you mean what's wrong with him? He's like, why he into birds? And I said he likes birds. That's just weird. But she's coming from a whole different world. He's free to explore the world through his own eyes and not have um all of the worldly things thrown at him. And so not only safety but quality of life, the things that I can teach him. He knows nothing about watching television and crime stories and all the things that are on TV today. The TV that he watches is YouTube, and that's censored based on the content that I allow him to see. And so to me it's important that he have um balance, that he understands. Now I sent him back to America in October And the first thing when he came out of the car, he was like, "They not like us." Then I was like, oh my God, what just happened? All the things I've done have been erased in 30 days. So, yeah, I mean, he is growing up in the world, but I tried to make sure he has, boundaries but at the same time, the freedom to be himself. The other thing is that he can learn languages. He went to a Spanish school or a Mexican school and learned Spanish as well as Mayan. Now he's teaching himself Korean. I used to live in Korea, so I do know a little Korean, but he's teaching himself through YouTube. He gets to be around Chinese culture, he gets around Indian culture, Malay culture. So cultural adaptation is real. He can appreciate differences. He can adapt to different environments, problem solving. All of these things come as a plus being a third culture child, right? um his cultural awareness, the food that he eats. He's more apt to eat different foods. Now, there's certain things he'd be like, "No, I'm not eating that." And if it don't look right or smell right, he's still not with it. But he gets to experience like Chinese New Year and all the different holidays that are being celebrated in the culture in which he lives. And so it just gives him a broader sense of self, and I love it. All right. So those are just some of the things I could go on and on, but we're gonna jump into the cons. Um, but before we do that, let's just keep it real, okay? Let's keep it 100. Moving abroad isn't sunshines. It's not butterflies. It's not all, great. And again, we get caught up in the Instagram moments. We get caught up in the fact that, you get to travel and see all these things. But there are some things that make living abroad difficult. One of the things that makes living abroad difficult is family. Now, Whew. What they say, the friends are family that you get to choose, right? The people you're born into, they don't always make life easy. Sometimes they could be your biggest critic. They can make it challenging because they're like, listen, we don't have the connectivity if you take your child. Like they're not growing up. We get to miss birthday parties. We get to miss holidays. We get to miss all these things. And so there's always this tension, but not always, but sometimes people don't understand, or they feel like the distance makes time just longer and you don't have the same meaningful relationships. Great thing is that we live in an age now where you have video, so you can kind of merge or bridge the gap, but it is difficult sometimes. Other thing, dealing with a non custodial parent can be very challenging. Baby, I got stories to tell. We can make about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these videos. But what I'll say is that um, if you have a co parent that lives in another country, try to bridge that gap with a video call, schedule, so that they can have that time together. It is difficult. And there are tears some days. There are days where you feel guilty. What I am going to say is do the best that you can to make that situation, have visitation schedule set up. Um, you have to have extra layers to make it work. I'm going to move on. Loneliness. Um, trans transit friends. The worst thing for me about living abroad is that you get connected to people, and just as y'all are getting into y'all groove and having connections, you have this one friend that like their child and your child are the same age and they're, growing up together doing all the things, and then all of a sudden they say they got a new assignment, or they're moving for XYZ, or they're going back to the US, whatever the situation may be, then you have to part ways. Now, you still may stay connected to that person, but it's difficult because you don't get that long term connection. And so, especially with the children make friends, and then next thing you know, the friends are gone. So it's difficult for you as the adult and for the child. And so you have to find ways to make connections that last. Maybe you meet up, in a different country, or as you travel, maybe y'all could be travel buddies or whatever. So you got to think outside the box to make that happen. Another thing is building support and community. That doesn't always come immediately, right? When I lived in Mexico, I had a built-in support system. When I moved to Malaysia, not so much. I had one person that actually lived in Mexico with me. We came around the same time. However, um, we don't live in a close proximity. We live in a bigger city. It's not as close and we don't have all the connection that we used to have when we lived in Mexico. So building communities is important. It's crucial actually, because when you have other single moms who understand your plight, it's better. You have ways to like have somebody to come and step in to give you downtime. When I in Malaysia, I am a mother 24/7 as I run a business, as I do YouTube, as I do all these things, but I have to schedule things and be more patient with myself. So, what I would suggest to kind of combat this con is to try to find people locally, try to find community fast, um, and just get the support system you need, because that is going to be crucial for your surviving in these international streets. So those are a few things I want to. I think I'm gonna have to do another video because there's so much that I could really talk about right here. Um, but I want to encourage anybody who is a single mom, or if you're a single father, because there's single fathers out here in these streets too. Hats off to y'all. Um, but if you're raising a child and you decide to move abroad, you have to stay positive. Make sure you have a good support system, whether you're checking in at home or whether you know, have people around you. It's going to be important. Moving abroad as a single mom isn't for the faint of heart. It's one of those things that could be very rewarding. You could be exposing your child to some amazing things, but there are some challenges, and the challenges are real. Um, if you don't have the right support system, you'll end up back home. So really think about what you need in moving abroad. Think about some of the things that can happen culturally if you're not in the right culture. But there is growth, there's joy, there's memories that are awaiting you if you come and explore. Remember, you're not just moving countries, you're teaching your child that life is full of possibilities and that everything that they see on TV is not reality. So, if you found yourself finishing this video, you stay with me this time, please know that I have a lot of resources, but I am also a resource. If you need help transitioning to being a single mom living abroad, I would love to help you. I am an expat coach and a soft life consultant who has done this for over 15 years. I've lived in 3 different countries. I've traveled to 29 countries, and think I could be wrong, but I think I know a little bit about these international streets. So don't don't forget to subscribe and like and turn on your notifications for this video, but also put a comment down. Tell me what your apprehensions are. Tell me some of the things that keep you stuck, and let's talk about it. But if you need assistance and you want to work with a professional, please do go down to the description and click on work with me. Until next time, please live your life to the fullest, because tomorrow is not promised to you. Until next time, I'm Cha. Peace.